Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis. I am a serial entrepreneur, international speaker, results strategist, business coach, mentor, and consultant. After over 14 years of being in business and running multiple companies, I felt called to start this show. I see many people struggling to start or grow a business, which is why I want to help entrepreneurs achieve success in business quicker, more effectively, and sustainably. Today, I have an awesome guest. He's an entrepreneur, virtual sales coach, virtual speaker, podcast host, and best-selling author. He provides virtual sales strategies and tools that work in the current market. Welcome, Ray Gomes, and thank you for being on my show.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be on your show. I've been waiting all day for this show, so let's do it.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Love to have you here as well. I'm sure we're going to provide some awesome value for our listeners. So, you're a very successful entrepreneur, and for those people, who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself by telling us a little bit more about you and your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my name is Ray Gomes. I was born in Malaysia. So I spent the first 15 years of my life growing up, and then obviously the second 17 years here in the US. And, growing up, it wasn't a fun lifestyle. I didn't have a childhood. I was one of those kids that was always said, you're never going to make it. You're not going to graduate from school. But I chose to use that as a drive. So, I'm sure we're going to talk more about my journey here with sales and marketing. But I would say this, that anything that's negative that people say is my driving force. I just have that goal to prove people wrong. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me, but I'm sure we're going to talk more. So.
Yeah, awesome, mate. No, I love it. It's always great to hear, where people come from. I think, we're a global world, right? And people, come from different countries and different cultures and backgrounds. But, we all have a similar type of goal or whatever it is, a drive within us to, fulfill what we're passionate about and align with our purpose, then, we can get there. That's all it comes down to, right? Which I love. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. So, obviously you're into sales and marketing and that. So where did the journey start in those areas?
So sales wasn't my to-go thing. I didn't really know what sales even meant. Quick little story, when I was 18 years old, I always wanted to play professional soccer. But obviously I wasn't, great enough to play. So I worked hard for 2 years to get in shape and trying to play college soccer. And I got invited to play soccer at a university in Tennessee. And, I prepared for it. I was ready to go. And prior to this, I was also going to school. I was working 4 jobs in fast food restaurants. So I would only probably get 2 hours of sleep, to put some practice time into that. And I was like, if I don't go to school, I don't play soccer, I was going to go into the military. That was kind of like my out, right? My mom didn't support me into paying for college, so I literally had to pay for my own school. But 2 days before my tryout and 2 months before my graduation, I was in a car wreck. And so I didn't have any medical insurance, so I couldn't get therapy or anything like that. And come to find out, just fast forward just a little bit, 8 years later, I found out that I had a C4, C5 nerve damage in my neck. I had broken my lower back. This is why I have nerve damage, from certain areas. But what happened was I couldn't join the military. I couldn't play soccer anymore. I lost all of my jobs because physically I just couldn't do anything. And I was just emotionally stressed out. And, I tried applying for new jobs, and for 9 months, and this was in 2008, for 9 months, I couldn't find a job. I was literally broke. And finally, I put an online application on, I would believe it was Career Builder, and a company, Vector Marketing, called me and said that, hey, we want to give you an interview. And I'm like, okay. And I had to drive 45 minutes to an hour, and I drove this 95 Mazda Protege. My mom got me for $300. I mean, it was beat up, like it was rusty. I didn't think I would even travel on the interstate. But I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. So I show up to the interview. I remember my mom going to a local store, like a secondhand store, and bought me this Calvin Klein jacket for, I believe it was $2. But it made me look good. It was Calvin Klein, so I'm acting that I'm going, this kid that, knows what he's doing. So I tried to sell myself. I didn't even know that I was selling myself. So I go in this interview, and they said that you will be selling knives. You will be knocking door to door, selling knives. And I'm like, I can't sell. I don't know what sell is. And then I got to sell knives. Like, I don't know who's behind that door. But I had to take that job. And I took the job. Ironically, my mom's just like, you should go work at a gas station. You should not work in sales. And I told my mom, this is the only job that I can do. This is all I got. And my mom literally said, you either quit the sales job now, or you have to move out or pay rent staying at home and get a gas station job, right? And I was about to, I'm here after getting the job. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna be a millionaire. I'm gonna do this. And then my mom just took me down. And I remember telling my mom, and I said, you know what, Mom? I'm gonna move out. So I packed my suitcase. It was a little bitty suitcase, dropped in my car, and I literally slept in my car for a couple months. But I took the knife job, and I hated cold calling. I had to call with people we know. And mind you, I just moved from Malaysia, so all my family members were back home, so I couldn't sell anything here. So I had to dig in. And I think that's where it taught me mental toughness. It taught me to keep going. So I started doing door-to-door sales. And then went on to actually becoming a district manager for Cutco Cutlery, where I actually then trained and hired thousands of college students and taught them skills for life. And then after that, I decided for something new because I've reached to the top of the chain in my perspective. And I said, I need something new. I want to be a coach someday, right? Because I've heard of Tony Robbins. I've heard of Les Brown, and I said, I want to be a coach someday. So I decided to go in the corporate world, kind of see what it's like corporate world. Then I got into selling software. I had no clue what the heck software was, or there's 200 different softwares. And being a third-party company, we had to sell everything, right? And there's no competition. You literally had to sell everything. And within less than 9 months, I went on to sell $3.5 million worth of software. And it was then I decided that I no longer want to work for another company, but I want to start my own business. And the only reason why I'm still working with Cutco Cutlery is because I still have my own freedom. And it's a pretty solid, partnership there. But that's where my loyalty is. So that's kind of a little bit about my sales. It was a lot of struggle. I wasn't the best salesperson. There were months that I didn't sell anything. I was broke. But I think I've learned a lot during that tough time. It definitely made me mentally stronger.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, and so much, lessons from that. And I can really relate to a lot of that. Myself, I played a lot of soccer, here in Sydney when I was younger and wanted to be other professional. I think it's probably every boy's dream when they're younger, whether it's soccer, football, or another sport, depending on what it is, to really make it. And I didn't, unfortunately, I had to sort of pick. I was doing soccer and tennis, but then my parents are both teachers, so they really wanted me to focus on studying. So that's sort of where it sort of went in the end. But in the end, I didn't even finish school. I didn't finish year 12, right? And my parents both being teachers didn't like that. And, then they tried to get me into a uni course, and then I didn't like that and ended up getting a job, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny the path that we take. But, with you, even with the adversity side of things, right? Like that those injuries and stuff, like obviously that's unfortunate, right? But sometimes, things happen for a reason, right? So, you were unable to, do that path. I'm able to go to the military stuff, but, look where it took you in the end. So I think you've always got to look at what are the positive things and what is the direction. And it's interesting. Life puts these things, in front of us, and people have injuries, and it's the way you bounce back from that. And that really does show your mental toughness. And, with cold calling, like door-to-door sales and that, I did that, some of that for about 6 months as well. And that's the toughest job, right? Because
it is.
Really teaches you how to hear the word no, right?
Have that short-term memory. Like if you have a long-term memory, you're not going to make it. Like you literally have to dial and go. And I do some cold calling right now, and I don't like it, but I'm a lot better doing it now in overcoming those objections. I don't know about you, but I used to cry. Oh my gosh, when I first started, I used to cry. Every no, I'm like, they hate me. What am I doing? Is it my accent? Like I would have so many excuses.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It was a bit later in my journey when I did it. I sort of did it towards the start of my business. So I'd already worked in corporate for a while. Not that I had done a lot of sales anyway, but I had a pretty good mindset by that time, where it helped me, I think. And I was just like, keep going. I remember, people would go and actually walking into businesses for the day, and people might get, 10, maybe 20 if you're lucky. I did like 60 in one day, right?
Yeah.
Just going bang, 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 and it doesn't matter. It's like, it's a numbers game, right? That's what it comes down to. And there's a lot of factors, especially whether it's over the phone or in person, where are you speaking to the right person? Are they the qualified person, right? Because they may not be. And then are they in there or not? Are they, are they ready to speak? Are they busy? There's so many different factors that can happen.
Yes.
You can do something at the time, then it's all up in the follow-up and the follow-through, right? After that.
Right.
So there's so many different factors. But I think everybody should do cold calling, whether it's phone or in person. I think everybody should do it for a good 6 months at least, right? Because it really builds that resilience and things that, to help you going forward.
I think, I think those are, if you're talking in the corporate world, I think that is the part of the position that doesn't get enough love or recognition. That is literally the bread and butter, because those are the first people that they talk to in the company, right? Those are the relationship builder before they meet the CEO. And I think also if you're an entrepreneur or if you're trying to start your own business, you got to master cold calling. You got to overcome that nose, because one of the biggest thing, and Francie was saying this in one of the lives a couple of days. She was mentioning, like, if you as a business owner cannot sell, then how are you going to hire the right people, right? And I've encountered multiple of individuals that I coach, clients as well. It's like, you don't hire salespeople, and you got to know the fundamentals, and you have to have skin in the game so you can act as a leader and then bring in the best salesperson to guide you, to take you to the next step. But I think a lot of individuals or business owner, they just want to hire someone to fill in a position, but they're not willing to do the job, right? But wanting to tell someone what to do. And I think that's why a lot of turnover rates happen, is because leaders are not growing. They are expecting too much, but not growing themselves.
Yeah, really awesome points. And I think it comes down to a lot of the, the beliefs and things with people, because sales has a bit of a taboo word, right? Where, you go like the old school car salesman, right? You go down and people, get sold to and feel like they're being pressured into buying something, which is obviously not the right way of doing it. And, like you said, if you can't sell, you don't have a business, right? And selling obviously is like probably the most important skill in business, but selling is a way of life, right? It's like, your kids, when they ask you for an ice cream, they are selling you for you to buy them the ice cream, right? If you want, if you're getting a partner, you're going out on a date, right? You're selling yourself to, to that person, if, for them to want to be with you. It's everything, right? And I think a lot of people, this is where, the mindset comes into it, right? Because they have these stories in their head where they probably had a bit of a bad, experience with sales at some point, or their parents had one, and it's, followed through, like your mum, like she didn't want you to do that sort of stuff. And that's unfortunate what happened. So I think
later on I did find out that the reason why she hated sales, because she used to sell Avon and Amway, and she wasn't good at it. She wasn't a people person, so she thought that didn't want me to go through that disappointment. She ended up being more of a protector, right? But after 12 years now, she's like, did you make that phone call? Did you do this? Did you do that? But I think going back to that, I think the biggest thing is fear, honestly. And also there's a misconception with sales. That when we say sales, we become that car salesperson. We automatically become that car salesperson, right? But what I usually say to my students and my clients is that you don't want to be a salesperson. You never want to be a salesperson. You want to be a problem solver. You want to be a consultant. When you build a relationship to where you are viewed as a problem solver, now you're not sales. Even though you're selling, but you're not a salesperson. And I think you got to understand, when you are presenting a product or services, are you trying to get a short-term results or a long-term results? For me, it's long-term. Sometimes I go a little longer steps than I need to, but at the end of the day, I have that customers for life versus the short-term, right? But you also got to know the individual. If someone is straight to the point, tell me what you want, this is what I need, this is what I want, then go ahead and give them what they want now and then slowly build it up. So yeah, what you were saying, you're right. You got to know your audience. You got to know qualifying leads. You got to ask the right questions. Like in my business, we have different qualifying questions. And after the third question, I already know if I want to continue moving forward or if I don't, or if someone I need to come back.
Yeah, that's awesome. So many great points there with, how that all fits together. And I think, with you, what are your thoughts on, I guess, the key steps, to be taken in the sales process?
Yeah, I think that the number one thing is being authentic, being who you are, really be that presence of you're trying to help to solve a problem. And by doing so, you ask questions, right? Tell me a little bit about, your struggles right now, right? What's your area of improvement, your opportunity? And if I can help you, I'll let you know. If not, I'll connect you with someone who could. And just being that authentic and being, honest with them, letting them know that I'm here not to solve all of your problems. Because if you're here to solve all of your problems, you're literally lying to yourself, because there's no way you could solve all of their problems. You may solve one, slowly, but you're not going to solve all of their problems, right? So just being honest with them, being authentic, and literally build that, focus on the long-term relationship. I'll tell you, in my first 2 years in sales, I suck. Why? Because I was selling the product that had the highest commission. And when I trying to keep pushing, I could have closed at so many lower products that could increase my closing ratio. But because I was just focusing on that high commission, because I was so broke, I ended up not selling anything. And then when I said, you know what, if I'm not going to sell this big set, I'm going to sell this small one, or I'm going to sell a couple of pieces, and I'm going to keep it. And that's when my sales closing ratio kept increasing, because now I became a problem solver.
Yeah, I love it. And I like the reframe there. I think everybody needs a bit of a reframe with how you look at it. And, another word that I think is a good way of doing it is how you serve people as well, instead of, selling them. So you're problem solving, how am I going to serve them so that I'm giving them, what they need and want at the time, what's going to help them, right? That's, really important there. And it's interesting because the game's changed now, right? Because we can't really do the door-to-door stuff or see a lot of people, depending on where you are in the world right now. It's interesting times, but I think it's, as much as we feel slightly isolated, I think it actually has opened up global markets a lot more now, because people are forced, to go on Zooms and other things like that, to connect. So I think if you've got that opportunity mindset, it's like, hey, wait a minute. Now, it's like forcing you and going to other markets. And I think it's actually opening up more opportunity. But I think the challenge now is it's different selling, virtually compared to, over when you're in person, because, there's different things that you can pick up and you don't get. So, in your eyes, what are the key differences between, virtual selling and standard selling?
I think it's a plus for entrepreneurs because most entrepreneurs are introvert individuals anyway. They don't like the big crowd. They like the more smaller group or more confined. And I think doing in virtual, they feel more comfortable because they're in their own space, in your own home or home office. There's no people. I think they feel more comfortable, so you get to see more of their personality. I think one of the biggest, like I've predicted a lot of them going virtually in 2017 when I was working for a technology company because we were given the opportunity to work from home twice a week. So we work 3 days in the office, twice a week. And I tell you, my sales actually increased when I was working those 2 days at home. Why? Because I was more focused. I didn't have outside distraction. I may have music or something, maybe a game or a soccer game going on, but I was still focused on what I needed to do. And I didn't have to feel someone was looking behind my shoulder. So I had to be me, right? So it depends on the situation, but going into virtually, I could say that the number one thing is your first impression, your presence, how you show up on Zoom. And ideally, a lot of individuals, they may be dressed up, but down they may have shorts. But if you're in a business meeting and you're about to close that one big deal that you've been working on, if you show up half dressed, you're going to show up half performance. I'm strongly believe how you dress is how you're going to perform. So at home, right? Just because you're at home doesn't mean you don't treat it like a job, right? This is your work. This is what you do. And you got to be more patient. You got to be, planning your backup. I mean, at any given time, our computer could shut down. Our internet could go off. Like, what do you do? What's your backup plan, right? And I think that's the key, that building relationship, first impression is key. Because if you build enough relationship and you're about to close that one big deal, and all of a sudden your computer shuts down, for example, right? There's an opportunity for you to reschedule that because that individual you're about to do business know that you didn't do it on purpose, that you were there every single time you were early. This is just one of the unlucky moments, and they were still more likely to do that business with you versus you showing up late, you're not dressed up properly, but then you still want to do business and then your computer like crash, and guess what? Now you probably just lost a big deal. So I think your presence is very important now more than ever. And you got to build that long-term relationship, and you got to make some sacrifices now. Don't try to close immediately. Start building that up. That's one biggest thing that I share with all my clients, all my students, like first impression. And that's one thing George Ross, George Ross from JT, he said to me, he said, talking to you, one of the biggest thing I noticed is your first impressions, your presence, your background. You are committed. And that is very key because now I could talk to George, right? Imagine if I showed up in a Hawaii shirt and not dressed up, like that relationship is gone.
Yeah, so many awesome points, and I completely agree. Like I dress with a jacket, with a shirt every day, depending on the situation. In Australia, we don't wear as many ties here with
Right.
meetings, so I think it's depending on who you're with and the industry. If you're in property or maybe like a banking type thing, then you do wear ties, but not so much. But I know in the US and things, it is more of a tie thing. So I definitely wear ties for certain occasions. But yeah, when I'm on there, and I agree that, and the whole way you dress, a lot of people don't think that, and I think it helps me to get into that work mode, into that I'm in the zone.
Yep.
I mean, this is me, and everything like that.
Yep.
Really, really big point there.
Yeah, it's very key because it does get you in the mind. How you dress. I mean, if you're an athlete, if you're playing soccer, you're not going to show up in a business suit, right? You're going to have the proper attire. But another thing that I do, like obviously I show tie, but once I build that relationship, I also ask the individual, hey, on our next meeting, is it okay if we do casual? Like I want to feel more relaxed. So asking permission, because there's different cultures, right? You just mentioned that in Australia, there's not so much tie. So for example, now that I've took note, next time we meet, it will be more casual, right? More relaxed. And it's respecting the culture. You with me? It's like you gotta respect the culture. You gotta know your audience. That's key of building that rapport right there. So and be open. Like be open, knowing that everyone's different, and that's okay.
Yeah, definitely, mate. No, I really love it. So many awesome points. And I think a lot of people, don't do these right things. So, what do you think the biggest mistake is that you see most people make with sales?
Um, they get complacent. They celebrate that one victory and they think it's over and they don't have to do it again. I think complacency is what kills individuals, especially leaders. Because I mean, you and I both know this. It takes a journey to get where we are, right? And I would say that people stop being a student. I feel like if you are in a new role, you are a student again. You literally a student. Why? Because there's so many experts that's crushed it in that department, right? So you got to learn your way up. And I think, a good example with the technology company, they were individuals that worked there, oh my gosh, 10, 15 years as a sales rep. And then they made it into that leadership and they only last 6 months, if that. Like, it's because they feel like I'm there. And I think that you should never be satisfied. Never, ever be satisfied with your results. Always find one step. You're not going to be perfect, but you got to keep, increasing your knowledge. That would be my biggest thing. Get a coach, like get a mentor, get someone that can hold you accountable. This is why, my coaches, JT, George Ross, Polly, like Coach Myron, like, I surrounded myself in different departments. Why? Because I'm not an expert, but I can learn how to be an expert.
Yeah. So many awesome points. I completely agree. And I think a lot of people, especially when you're in business, is you've always got to be focusing on growth, right? And when you're starting, it's a bit of a challenge because you've got to deliver what you've got to do as well. So it's a little bit of a dance, especially when you don't have too many staff and things like that, or even when you do, of balancing that. But if you ever stop and just say, oh, I sold, a few this week or whatever like that, I can relax, for a few weeks or something. It's like, never do that, because there's a momentum thing, right, in business where you have to constantly do it. And when you have that focus, then the opportunities, continue to come. And that's one thing that, I've learned through my coaches and mentors, and the other way of the art of selling as well, right? It's both of us, we wouldn't be where we are today without coaching and mentoring, right? Like, we only learn what we learn. And I think, the standard school system does have certain things that teach us, but there's a lot of things missing in the real world of what actually gets used in business, right? And I didn't go to, I told you I didn't finish school and I got a job for a while. I actually went back a few years ago and got into uni to do an MBA, right? And I got in through a lot of experience. That's how I got in, right? And I could never study, right? Like I used to do whole, half a year assignments in one night, right? I never study, and I still couldn't, but I forced myself, but I saw an end goal, right? So I was like, you know what? I want to learn all about business. And I took a lot of great things from that, and I learned a lot of good stuff, but there's still certain things that they don't teach you because they're not, worth tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars of people, that are very successful. There was someone that, I learned from that had multiple businesses, which is great, but not on another level, like, JT Fox is an example that, is on that level there, or George Ross, how he was, advising, the Trump organization for 40 years, 50 years was over a long period of time. Like the deals that these guys do with the hundreds of millions of dollars and all this type of stuff, it's a whole nother ball game. And when you open yourself up to this and go, okay, what is the process? How do I model them? How do I emulate? What is the shortcut that I can get there, get to that point? That is the gold. And that's what propels us and, help us to get to where we are. And everyone's different, right? We're not all going to relate to the same person. That's a personal decision on which coaches, mentors, and right. Like I've been to some Tony Robbins events for my mindset. I think Tony's amazing, for mindset and things like that. And then I resonated with JT, like yourself, on the business wealth side of things, right? Because I think he's a machine, in terms of what he does and what he knows and the the outcomes that he does. But everyone's going to relate to somebody else. But I think the key thing is see who, you resonate with, and then model them, learn from them, invest in yourself so that you can, create that life for yourself.
I think that's the biggest thing too, like with school, because I got my MBA and I got an online certification from, an extended school in Harvard, and I was learning about organization and culture. I think the biggest thing that really put me in school is that I was implementing it. I made a bunch of mistakes, but I would study and I would look into other organizations and I would try to implement. Like I would ask a job shadowing, I would ask a internship. So I would implement. And I think a lot of individuals like go to school, they learn, they pass the exam, but they don't implement it. And then what happens is they get out of practice. So by the time they graduate, they've literally didn't do anything. They got a certification, but they didn't do anything. Versus, the circle of influence you and I in now, like they teach you, and then they expect you to go out, implement, and then get the coaching to make it perfect. I think that's the biggest thing about school is that they teach you, but they don't teach you how to implement it. And that is the biggest misconception on why students are graduating, but they don't have the skills. Is because they're not using it. When I was doing my MBA program, I was teaching my class. I wasn't taking class. I was teaching my class. That's the difference.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I completely agree. There's implementation is everything. And I think when you do it later, I think that was the power of me and likely with yourself, because we've got this experience and we go into it right at that point. When you're doing group exercises or when you're sharing, we just go in with a whole nother lens and, we can implement it. Like I was doing entrepreneurship subjects even, right? So I was, we were strategic consultants going into an actual business, we were pitching venture capitalists. We're doing all these other things, talking about business. And, I'm obviously doing my own business coaching and mentoring. And these guys have got their businesses in this class. And I was just going up to them saying, have you thought of this X, Y, Z? And they're like, that's amazing. Like, we got to have more chats and everything like that. I'm like, yeah, well, it's like, and the teachers don't, help them in that respect. They're just trying to put them along a process. And don't get me wrong. There's good value in there. I'm not saying it's all bad, right? There is
right.
But like you said, and that's where coaching with the accountability side of things, right, is that, it helps you to really force yourself. I think with us, we've got a drive that we want to make it happen. But when you've got the coach in the background that gives you the right thing to focus on and says, by this date, I want this to be done, then that's when you really get some great results and momentum.
Yeah. I think finding your why, regardless, I mean, we all know not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Some are contained working the 9 to 5 and they're okay. But they still have to have that why behind it on why they wake up to do that 9 to 5 job. And I think a lot of people lose that power is because their why is not strong enough, because we are so, it depends on where you're growing up to and who's your circle of influence, right? They may be the why is like, well, my friends did this, they're okay, I should be okay. Versus hanging out with people who'd be like, your why is not strong enough. Keep going, keep finding for a bigger why, right? I think regardless whether you're an entrepreneur, your 9 to 5 job, the number one thing that you need to focus is, why do you do what you do?
Yeah.
And if it's not pushing you, find something bigger, right? For me, my why is never be satisfied because I know I can be better, right? So I think that's the key is find your why.
Yeah. So such an amazing point there and so powerful in life, that purpose, why you're doing it. And falling in love with the process is another one, right? It's like, it's not just about achieving that goal. It's like, I'm not getting into business or whatever just to make $1 million, right? It's like,
right.
If you have a money as your outcome, you're not going to be fulfilled, right? It's like, why am I doing this? Who do I want to help in the world? Am I doing it for my family, for my kids or other things like that? What are those reasons that get you up in the morning early or, help you stay up at night or whatever that is that you have to do to make it happen, right? That's what it comes down to. And when you have that and you're in that zone, you feel unstoppable, right? It's like,
exactly.
It's so powerful.
The power to implement, like for me, my mind, it runs. Oh my gosh. Like I think I only sleep like 2-3 hours, a power nap in between. But after I get out from that power nap, my mind is like, I got this idea, I got this. So I was like, what do I need to build? Whose team, right? So, I would say that, I guess a little bit more powerful for me that I own it now is from a spiritual encounter that I've been given a second chance to do something good moving forward. Part of my story that I didn't share, but the people that knows me is that 2 years ago, I did attempt suicide because I was depressed. And, I got a spiritual encounter that really woke me up to where now I know that if I wake up every day, I have a higher purpose. Whatever that is, I don't know. All I know is I've been woken up to do something. So one thing to know, like, if you wake up today, you're powerful because you have been entrusted to do something good, something great, whatever they might be, right? It could be putting a smile on someone's face. Could be just that, right? So that's why you need to find your why. That's why you need to go out there and sell yourself on why you're great at what you do, right? And be open to learning. So that's my motto, waking up every day.
Yeah, no, that's awesome and such a powerful story, right? And I think we all have struggles over time, right? And people may not feel they're in the right space and things like that. And that's really where personal development comes into it, right? Because a lot of the issues that we have are the beliefs that we've grown up with, that our parents have instilled on us, to the best of their ability, but don't realize that it was limiting, or the circles we were in and the situations we find ourselves where, we think that it's the outside forces that are doing it to us, but really we create it all, right?
It is.
when you understand that, right, that's when you really step into your power. And it's like, okay, how do I evolve from this? What do I need to learn, to really shift that? And, from a mindset perspective, I think Tony Robbins, he's one of the best in the world, and, everything like that. And just, doing one of his, simple events like Unleash the Power Within or something, I think for a lot of people will do it. And, he's doing the virtual ones now, as, JT's he's doing virtual events for business and other things like that as well. So, but find somebody that resonates with. There's plenty of people. There's obviously, coaches, doesn't have to be the big guys as well, right? You can find coaches and mentors that work on your mindset. It's like, okay, let's uncover these things that are holding you back, and they can actually go deep on you, right? And find out the stories you're telling yourself. Really powerful.
That's true. Yeah, I got the opportunity to actually go through one of Tony's course for 16 weeks last summer. The Robin Mandanas, and it was there I think it changed my business because we had to focus on a mindset, communication, body language, finding the human needs, and kind of build your selling point around that. And after going through 16 weeks, it really opens my eyes, like how a simple question or a simple wording could change a perspective for someone to where you're not being pushy, you're actually being understandable, right? And I think, like having Tony's background of coaching and now JT in a business, I think that's what's really making me that strong individual, both personal and business. And it's going to what you say, we make that decision. We may see advice or we may look up to someone, but they don't make the decision for us. We got to own that decision for ourselves. So I think you nailed that. We make the decision, we own it.
Yeah, definitely. No, really great points. And completely agree with all of that. And I'm along the same path. And I think, with sales as well, there's a lot of software and things and systems and stuff now, right, that you can help in this world as well to make things efficient. So you're not doing all the runaround work. So what things do you use to sort of, streamline and automate the sales process?
Obviously, there's multiple different CRM programs out there. Everything is similar. I think the biggest thing is find what you're comfortable and that how you understand to use it and how you could teach someone to use it. Because if you're not comfortable with one, then it's going to be difficult to explain it to someone else, much understand it, right? You can hire the best CRM creator, but if you don't get it, your people are not going to get it, right? So you got to find a CRM that works for you. Like in my organization, we have different CRM based on the business. So we have a real estate, we have one CRM. We have, for Cutco, I have one CRM. Then I have to divide that into just working with business owners and realtors and just residential customer, because I don't want that to collide, right? So as far as CRM, there's no perfect CRM. It's just a matter of what makes you feel more comfortable and understand better that you could relate. Because think about it. If you have a technician that handles all your CRM, what happens if he gets sick, right? Or what happens if he or she needs to go on vacation? Can you step in to handle that if you need to? And the second thing you need to do is you need to have a CRM and also a security, because you're talking about people's information. You're talking like if your laptop gets stolen, bam, now all of this information are in there, right? So you got to know, certain security that's going to protect that database so you don't get leaked out. As small businesses, as you're starting off, you'll probably only have a few customers. You're probably not going to worry. But as you scale and as you grow, you might want to look into, over here in the US is the VPN. There's multiple different securities, because that could literally break a company, because if one information leaked out and you are tied into that process, then you could be sued as well. And if you don't have the right legal team, that could bring down your business. And it could not be even your fault, right? Like you literally, the owner, is not your fault. But if someone were to leak out, or, computer gets stolen and it's not safe, it's still under a company and you still got to be able to handle that. So CRM, find the one that fits you, but have a security in place in case something were to leak out.
Yeah, awesome. No, really great points there. And it's interesting with, I think in the US, there's a lot more in terms of the, the legal world with suing and stuff like that. It's definitely more prevalent than Australia. Not that it doesn't happen here, but I noticed that there are, any reason they'll get lawyers involved.
It's huge here. It's like, I don't want to sound this bad, but I just being here just to let you, like, people find anything to make money without having to do work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you can literally go in the store and someone would try to pretend they sleep on a pack of vegetables and broke their hip. I'm like, we caught you on camera. You did that on purpose, But I definitely understand where you are in Australia. Like I said, I grew up in Malaysia, and I do have families in Sydney. Come to find out, and if everything goes well, I will be in Australia next year. So there's a company trip for 12 days that I'm waiting to go. But you're right. I don't think it's just in the US. I think, especially during these tough times, you're going to get a lot of people trying to find something to get some sort of cash out of it. And as business owners, we got to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if we don't protect ourselves, we don't exist,
Definitely. And I think with, obviously sales is the most key one, but also, marketing, right, is required to get leads as well. You got to be able to get the leads in. So what do you think changed in that space, in that space in the virtual world now?
I think social media is your number one leads right now, generation. I preach this, I say this from now to now. Many of you know that I've coached individuals to get a higher raise in a job, or interviewing. I actually coach people how to interview for jobs. And one of the things that I say is social media. What you post on social media is literally what's going to say, I want you to be on my team and I want to hire you for $1 million. Or I don't ever want to talk to you again, right? Because what happens is, before, without social media, right? Take me, for example. I was broke, but I was wearing a Calvin Klein jacket, and I could walk in an interview and act like I'm the best person in the world, that you should hire me. But now, if someone were to go on social media and I'm acting like a fool partying on a bus or on a boat, I don't want that to be part of my organization, right? So literally social media, if you don't have social media, ironically, it creates a red flag because they're going to think you're the CIA or something. Like, why do you not exist? Right? But if you have social media, you got to watch what you're posting. Are you consistent? Who's your circle of influence? Who's your friends? Right? Who's your top friends? Who's posting? Who's reacting? Who's giving you comments? Right? I mean, think about it. Before, when you apply for the job, you want that references, right? But now all your reference is literally on your social media. So I think that's your biggest lead. So if you want more leads, act great on social media so people can start referring you. I can tell you countless times where I would say, hey, I'll reach out to, even part of the JT family and say, hey, I got so-and-so that might be a good fit. This is their social media. Let me know if you want to send a connection, and vice versa. And I think that's how you're going to generate leads, right? It's social media. That is the new virtual. I mean,
yeah, really, really awesome points there. Completely agree. And it comes down, with a combination of branding there, right? And you are your brand, right? And a lot of people think, oh, it's just my personal Facebook profile. I can just have all this fun and things like that. Obviously, there's LinkedIn as well, right? Which is very big.
right.
Getting a job as well in the professional sort of world. But even with Facebook, which has a lot more users, it still comes down to that. And you got to think to yourself, what do I want to portray myself out there in the world? And, we all, like to have a little bit of fun here and there, but, you're not going to, let's say when you were younger, you probably, everyone's gotten like really drunk once and passed out, right? When they were young, when they were, drank too much, testing their alcohol levels, but you're not going to like take a picture of yourself when you're passed out and put all over your social media, right? It's like it puts the wrong image, and that's just a once-off thing, and people don't need to know about that, right? I'm not saying you do that now, but that's the way you got to think of it. Is what is the perception out there of what people do.
Exactly. And I think coming from a recruiter standpoint too, one of the first thing I do is I go on a social media, check their LinkedIn, and I try to find out one or two things that I could relate to. And if I could relate just a little bit, I want to give someone a shot. But if I can, then I'm not going to waste anyone's time. And it's not about ego or anything like that. It's just that I don't want to put someone in a situation where I'm wasting their time when they could have scheduled that interview with the opportunity that they want, right? It's all about being respect too. And that's huge. You got to know something. I mean, for me, George Ross is 92 years old. The fact that he took time to do some research to learn more about me, and he doesn't even have to do this, right? He didn't even have to do this, like he's George Ross. But the fact that he took time to learn about someone and to say yes to a coaching session, right? Why should I be different? Why should I not create a better opportunity? So I think as business owners, you gotta hone social media. If that's not your thing, that's okay. But that is where you're gonna find the people that you want to be part of your organization. And if and they're doing the same thing, right? They won't just interview for your company. They want to be a part of something big. And that's the big perception now. If you want to hire millennials or Generation X, whatever you call it now, you don't hire them because of money. They want to be part of something big. And if you have a big vision and you drive them and you hone them, you are going to create a powerful organization.
Yeah, definitely. So great points there. The vision is everything, and really getting people along the way. And and I think if we sort of sum it up now in a little bit of a way, what do you think would be one key piece of advice you would give to all the entrepreneurs listening today?
Never stop growing. Always be a student.
Yeah, love that. It's so true. Always continue to grow. And it's interesting, right? Is that it's almost like, not that you get addicted, but you see the shift in yourself when you learn something more, whether it's mindset, business skills, or whatever it is. And then you're like, oh my God, like I'm this whole different, I'm this different person now. And it's like, okay, what's the next thing that's going to get me to that next level? And, and then we become the people that we are today, and we're still going to get better. We know we are, because we keep investing in ourselves. and it is an investment. So yes, such a great point there, Ray. And, you know, and for yourself, you know, you also have your own podcast called, you know, Sell Yourself to Drive Sales. So do you want to tell everyone a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so as far as my podcast, it covers more about selling perspective. We go over about building relationship. We talk about training courses, like how to train sales team, how to really work with a sales team, and also how to grow, right? So I know I'm actually approaching season 3 now. Time has just flown. Who would have thought you have season 3? By the way, I never want to do a podcast, but I enjoy it. And what I think that the audience should definitely go in there, because you're not just hearing my perspective, but you're hearing about entrepreneurs who have done it way longer than I have, and they're still talking about the fundamentals about what we need to do now as entrepreneurs. And the reason, you know, I encourage you to go there is because it's like being a parent. Your kids are not always going to listen to you, but they will listen to someone else. And so part of the show is I invite individuals to come in and share their perspective. So sell yourself to drive sales. We all know you want to succeed, you got to learn how to sell yourself. You got to learn how to close sales virtually if you want to run a successful business.
Yeah, awesome. No, it is a great show. I've listened to many episodes, and you're doing a great job, mate. So keep up the great work. And you've also got a best-selling book. So maybe let everyone know how that can help them as well.
Yeah, so the mindset principle, I talk about my journey, being a young entrepreneur, struggling, you know, even being in a relationship, and then it talk a little bit about my depression, my spiritual encounter. And I know it's business, but I think spiritual is definitely huge if you have whatever belief you're in. So I want to talk, I share with the audience on both perspectives, because one of the biggest things that we talk about now, especially with the whole pandemic, is your mental health. And I know suicide rates are up there, and I share my perspective on what I've gone through and why I took the action that I did. And there were times that I had zero control about it. So part of our journey is my biggest why is to continue to act as a leader, to say that regardless of where you are right now, there is a way out. So I encourage you, if you want to learn about the mindset, the steps that I took to overcome my depression and to be completely off the drugs after a year, no alcohol, I don't drink anymore. And it's like, those are the mindset, the principle on how to set your goals, how to find your why. So I break it down in that book. So if you know, especially for the young teenagers that's going through hard times right now, I think this will be a great book for them to explore, and hopefully, you know, no one has to commit suicide and find the journey.
Yeah, awesome, mate. No, that sounds like an amazing book. I'll have to buy it soon and read about it. And I think, yeah, our personal experiences and things like that can really help a lot of people. So I'm sure people get a lot of value from it. You know, we met in an event last year, you know, where you actively sought out to connect with many people, and you're open to learning from, you know, more successful people than yourself, and you see how you can provide value in return. So I'm very grateful that we connected, and I look forward to working with you in the future, Ray.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here. And, you know, amazing things on yourself. I mean, we're in the same coaching group every week. We learn from the best coaches. And I think that, you know, relationship is just going to keep building. So keep doing what you're doing. You know, we're all learning from each other. So, yep. If you want me to come back, I'll be here.
Yeah, awesome, mate. I love it. And yeah, thank you very much for your time today, Ray. I'm sure, you know, many people have greatly benefited from your valuable wisdom. So how can people find you and get in contact with you?
Yeah, so if you want to get in contact with me, you could go to raygomes.com, RAYGOMES.com. You can actually download my blueprint on how to close more sales virtually as well. And that's the best way to reach me. Or you could reach me at social media. Love to connect and see how we can work with each other.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so thank you everyone for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way you will know is if you tune in next time. Until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. Have a great day.